Howdy y'all, I'm back to give you an update on the heater core replacement in my 2012 Ford Focus. As of right now, the repair is not entirely complete. I still have some body panels and such that have not yet been completely attached or put back in place because I'm having a couple more issues. This is an update to the previous video. I wanted to let some people know about some issues that I ran into, some things I wish I did. Starting off with wires. A heater core replacement is, as far as I can tell, going to require the complete removal of your dash. Because of that, you're going to have to pull out all of the wires for your heater, your stereo system. If you have the fancy navigational systems, you're going to have to unplug your gauge cluster. You're going to have to pull out your entire steering column. I had to remove my shifter. You might be able to fiddle around and get around without it. I know some people have also removed their e-brakes. I had removed the entire center console and the seats. Now, when you're dealing with your wiring harness, I've known this for a long time and I just completely neglected to do it on this job. Labeling. Labeling is a great thing, and I regret not doing it. I brought down the masking tape and the Sharpies so that I could do it, and I just got into it and I neglected. I thought, oh, I'll remember, and 100%, like every time before, I was wrong. I've got a couple wires in there and a couple plugs that aren't connected right now, and I know they're not connected because I couldn't figure out what they went to. So I decided to go ahead and proceed with the testing and see if I could diagnose it that way. That's why most of the panels aren't in. But as of right now, I am able to drive the vehicle, but I'm experiencing a couple other issues, not necessarily that I think are related to the repairs I've done. We'll get to that in a second. Secondly, everybody I spoke to was not a Ford technician or a professional by any means. However, they've been working on cars since before I was even thought of, before the party I was conceived at was even thought of. And they all agreed that these OEM clips that connect your heater core in here are absolute garbage. I think I still got one sitting right here. Yeah, these things are garbage. They go bad, they don't work right, they're hard to use, etc., etc. So, as you can see, per their recommendation, my research, everything, I hose clamped it. Cut them right off, hose clamped them. I might be leaking a little bit, I'm not entirely certain at this point. Again, issues that I'm having, I'll get to that in a second. Nextly, another tip that might help you is writing down a checklist. If you unplug something, write down what kind of connector it was and what it plugged into. That goes along with labeling. However, stupid mistake that held me up on a lot of time. I got most of this together. I hop in. I turn my key. Neither of my LCD screens up here come on. So I immediately go into troubleshooting mode. I'm starting to think I broke a wire in the harness, this, that, and the other, what have you. I go in, I pull out fuse 69, which goes to the gauge cluster apparently. And I'm running the wiring harness. I go through, pull out most of this system in here, looking through it. My dumbass, at no point did I pull the gauge cluster out to see that it was plugged in. And it wasn't. I'd completely forgot to do that. I had routed the wire where it needed to go. I had gotten everything back in place. But then I just went and slapped the fucking gauge cluster back in. So, if I had a checklist, I know I wouldn't have done that. More than knowing what the connector went to, knowing that it would have been connected would have saved me those hours of troubleshooting. Secondly, if you break a part while you're doing this repair, it's going to happen. It happens. Down here, I've got this rocker molding that's got 3 clips in it that hold, or it's not the rocker molding. Gosh darn, what am I saying? This piece of molding, whatever it is, has 3 clips that hold it in place. I broke 2 of them off. In my frustration, I went and chucked the parts off into the Aether. I know those parts are different than the one clip that didn't break, but I don't know what they were, so I can't take them to AutoZone to replace them. As far as breaking parts go, also maintain your patience. If you got to stop and smoke a cigarette, drink a beer, make a phone call, rub one out, whatever the hell you got to do to keep your patience and your calm, because if you don't, you wind up breaking shit left and right. Shit don't line up quite right. I still got to realign my doors, because you have to take your damn doors off for... Oh, you can tell I really love my car. But I really want to answer some questions and everything. I know somebody else is probably going to stumble upon this video in the future, and I want them to feel free to ask questions. I hope other people down in the doodly doos in the comments, etc., go ahead and answer a few questions, things I might have left out. Now, getting back to the issue I told you I was going to get back to. In my desperation of losing coolant, overheating, etc., this is my daily driver. I don't really have another backup. Disregard the busted down G over there. So I kind of had to push her to her limits, and I went to Walmart and I got a bottle of Heater Core Stop Leak. I contribute most, if not all, of the problems that I'm having right now to the stop leak. I think somewhere in the system it stopped up something that it wasn't supposed to stop up, and now things aren't going where they need to go, because I'm still overheating but I'm not losing coolant. I've got a vacuum pressure in here, so I'll be driving along, I'll get an overheating alarm, I'll pull over to the side, come out here, it'll look like my reservoir is completely empty. I'll pop the cap and it'll depressurize and completely backfill with coolant and water to the point of overfilling, boiling out, steaming, crazy. I let it sit, goes back down, put some more water in it, and we're good to go for a minute. But there's also now this cotton type material that's in the tank that came from that, and I'm pretty sure that's somewhere where it doesn't need to be, and I don't know how to fix that. So if anybody can come across and tell me where to look, that would be nice. Now, another issue I'm having, and this is because of the repair and what I have done, is at some point I messed up my heating system. So right now, if I turn on my heating system and I turn on the front windshield heater blower, I've got air coming out of all of the vents. Almost always I'll have AC coming out of the passenger side, regardless of what I have the driver's side set to. I'll also have foot vents blowing when they're not supposed to. I'm pretty sure that's something that I left disconnected. Somebody told me something about a blend door, but I don't know. I'm going to continue my research, but this is something somebody in the future might run into, so if you could drop it down in the comments and help somebody out. That's what this is all about. This is about helping each other do things that you wouldn't be able to do normally. At the beginning of this repair, I had no real knowledge about what I was getting into. I'd watched a couple of the videos online, and honestly, a lot of people online are very discouraging about completing this repair because it is a lot of work, and like I've just shown you, you've got to do a lot of things, and it's going to take a weekend, maybe a week. If you don't have the time, this is absolutely not a repair I would recommend undertaking. However, if you can afford yourself a couple of minutes, if you can afford yourself a couple of days out of the month to really get in here, look at it, take your time, be patient, look up the questions that you have, don't proceed until you have an answer, ask other experts, deal with the idiots on the internet who want to tell you it's every problem you know it's not, but don't get discouraged. You don't have to be a professional mechanic. The engineers who put this thing together understand that idiots who didn't graduate high school are going to be working in the shops. Now, I'm not saying dealership mechanics aren't intelligent by any means, but these are built to the dumbest factor that they can be. They're stupid and they're complicated, but to a certain extent. One thing I want to point out is most of the units that I worked on in here, I noticed had their own fasteners. So when I was working on this center console in here, the heat and the radio and everything, they all had the same black T25 fastener, I think it was. Whereas the dashboard itself had a 7/16 flanged hex nut for most of it, which really helped with putting all of the fasteners back where they had to go. The heater core box had silver T20 Torx bits, I believe. And you'll find that all over. And it really does help with organizing your bolts and everything. Another thing that you might want to do is get yourself some type of parts tray organizer or something like that. When I'm working on vehicles, if I can, I like to put the fastener back where it came from once the part's been removed. So when my dash was removed, I still had these fasteners in here, so I knew where they went. That's not always an option, so sometimes you got to put a little masking tape flag on it right where it came from and drop it in a tray where you know you ain't going to lose it. Some people are a little bit more brave and just get a metal bowl and drop them all in there. I don't know. It's up to you guys. It's your shop. Do what you want. Just be safe. All right. I hope this helped somebody in the future, in Futureland. Yeah. Keep doing things.